All right, so today I wanted to talk about an interesting thing that I seen the other day, and it's the lesson of the plucked chicken. Now let's read a little bit about it, and I'll talk about it. Um, During those final days of the collapsing Marxist experiment in the Soviet Union, Soviet novelist Chingiz Aitamov retold the following story, which has been paraphrased here. On one occasion, so it was narrated, Stalin called for a live chicken and proceeded to use it to make an unforgettable point before some of his henchmen. Forcefully clutching the chicken in one hand, with the other hand he began systematically pluck out its feathers. As the chicken struggled in vain to escape, he continued with the painful denuding until the bird was completely stripped. Now you watch, Stalin said as he placed the chicken on the floor and walked away with some breadcrumbs in his hand. Incredibly, the fear-crazed chicken hobbled towards him and clung to the legs of his trousers. Stalin threw a handful of grain to the bird and had begun to follow him around the room. He turned to his dumbfounded colleagues and said quietly, "This is the way we rule the people. Did you see how that chicken followed me for food even though I had caused it such torture? People are like that chicken. If you inflict inordinate pain on them, they will follow you for food for the rest of their lives." Now, why do I bring this up? Because again, this is another very, very relevant modern parallel when it comes to this whole virus situation, just people in general. Now, the first thing I would point out is that there is some dispute about how true this story is. But again, the best I could see is number one, like a full-on commie site disputing it. Number two was Snopes, which I think is laughable. So um, it probably is true, but it is possible that it isn't. But the point being still remains. The point being still remains in that this is the situation of this whole virus situation, in that the government has caused people immense amount of pain, and looking back on it, which is something we've known for a long time, but again, I think more and more people are starting to wake up to this. It was for no reason. Again, it was for absolutely no reason, and that there's no data that shows that the lockdowns work. There's no data that shows that the mask mandates work. There's no data that shows that closing down businesses work. There's no data for pretty much everything they've done. The one thing that we do know would help save lives is the nursing home stuff. Is if they actually put some care and attention towards nursing homes. But what have they done? Well, not a whole lot. And again, they've restricted visitation, but that doesn't mean that, I mean, some visitation is still allowed, I know. That doesn't fix the problem of workers. Again, there's a lot of people still got to work there. That also didn't fix the problem that we had a lot of people that sent sick people into nursing homes. So again, the one thing that we do know would help, they're not doing. The other thing we know is that, the vast majority of people are dying are in nursing homes, and of the people that aren't in nursing homes, the vast majority of them are people with multiple underlying conditions. So why are we treating a healthy young individual the same as we're treating someone who is, has orders of magnitude a larger chance of dying than them? Why are we treating them all the same? So again, the whole point here being is that what the government has done has made absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. And regardless of what you think about this whole issue, I think it would be very fair to consider the point that the fact that the solution to an increase in spread, which again is BS in and of itself, but nonetheless, the fact that the government's solution to dealing with this situation is almost exactly the same as what it was when we first got into this whole situation is absolutely astounding as well. Like, it's absolutely astounding as well, because again, we know that the death rate is significantly, and calling it significantly would be a understatement if anything, less than what we originally thought. We know that nursing homes are and people with multiple underlying conditions are the only people that need to be worried. We know that, like I say, mask mandates don't do anything. We know lockdowns don't do anything. So why are we still doing the same old situation? Well, that's a very good question. But again, the main point I wanted to get around to here is that the government has caused immense amount of pain and suffering, but yet look at the amount of people out there that are still looking to the government to solve these problems. Like, look at how many people are still looking to the government to solve these problems. That is absolutely scary. And again, it's the same allegory here too. That look at how much pain and suffering the death count from communism is like 5 to 10 times higher than the death count from fascism or far right ideologies. Even though it actually isn't far right, they're actually a lot more similar than what one would think. But at least what they teach you in school is far right. Uh, but yet, look at the average person's view of communism compared to fascism. Well, the average person's view of fascism is significantly worse than their view of communism. Well, why is that? Is because the government has brainwashed people into thinking that communism, it wasn't that bad. The Red Scare and McCarthy was crazy and all this garbage you're taught in school, right? So again, this is the big problem here. The problem in that the government causes people this immense amount of pain, but because they're so brainwashed by public schools and the mainstream media that they just come around and just beg for more, right? They just come around and beg for more, right? It's the same thing that goes with the partner that stays with the abusive partner, right? That doesn't make any sense, but they do it, right? And why do they do it? Well, because they've been conditioned to want this kind of stuff, right? They've been conditioned to want this kind of stuff, right? Like it's the same situation with um, all these politicians being caught traveling now. But what is a lot of these people's solution? Oh, it's it's not demand we reopen and punish the people who broke the rules. No, it's just force the politicians to stay home. Like again, like it's just pure Stockholm syndrome. Like it's pure Stockholm syndrome. And any logical person with a brain, with a functioning brain, would look at the situation of the politicians traveling, breaking their own rules, and look at it and think, oh, if they're not going to follow the rules, they're admitting that the rules make no sense and we should repeal all the rules. Like anybody with half a brain would look at the rules and think that. But what do a lot of people think? Oh no, it's just let's just force them to resign, have people that have the same belief system as them replace them, and just do the same thing over and over again. Right? Like again, like the amount of Stockholm syndrome and just pure ignorance of these people, it really, really, really knows no bounds. Like it really knows no bounds. And again, that's the thing I'm trying to communicate in making videos to people is that, again, if the politicians don't even believe in the rules themselves, then why would you believe in them? It makes no sense. But again, the problem, like I said, is that people are so brainwashed and conditioned to thinking that this is still the doomsday virus that they go along with it. It doesn't matter how little the government cares about it, they're still going to go along with it. So again, the whole point of this being is that this is the problem with people these days. And again, this is all the proof you need to think that, again, public schools have done a horrible job, quote unquote, educating people these days, that the mainstream media is just entirely propaganda, and that stuff like this can exist, right? Stuff like this can exist. Because again, if there was any sanity left in the world these days, most of these politicians, I mean, any politician that supported lockdowns would be voted out or forced to resign, and we would be back to normal right now. If there's any sanity, that's what we would be doing right now. But there isn't any sanity, and there isn't any sanity. Partially, I think, because the average person feels like they're powerless, and partially also because um, the mainstream media and the public schools, run cover for these people, right? So again, like there's a lot of problems, that cause these issues. But again, they almost entirely come back to the propagandization of people, the brainwashing of kids, and just how much it's beat into them, right? Just how much it's beat into them, right? And this is the goal of the government. This is the goal of big government and the way we currently run things. It doesn't even really matter what side of the aisle they're on anymore. Like I mean, Jason Kenney and Doug Ford have proved that. In that, again, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle on. The goal is a bigger and more powerful government. Like that is the goal. And what happens when that happens? Well, people become more and more dependent. And the problem with that is that if you bring that up to the people that are dependent upon them, they literally view it as you wanting to kill them by questioning the narrative, right? When in reality, that's not true. In reality, that's not true. But that is why things are so polarized these days, right? That is why things are so polarized. And that's why, like I say, I don't think things are going to get much better before they get worse, because I think it's an inevitable, thing that's going to end up happening, because again, like we've gone so far down the rabbit hole that I don't think we can get out of it without a lot more craziness, and that's a big problem that I think should be brought up as well. But again, that's another topic in and of itself. But again, the main point here being is that there's so many people these days that are completely brainwashed, that stuff like this can happen, like stuff like this can go on. And again, it's incredibly frustrating for the people that are actually aware of this stuff, right? Like it's incredibly frustrating. Like it's just pure Stockholm syndrome, like pure just garbage. It just boggles my mind how people can view it as a badge of honor. They view it as a badge of honor to be treated as a second class citizen, to be treated like a peasant. Like, how can so many people view that as a badge of honor? It really boggles my mind how so many people um, can support that. Like, it really does. But then again, when you think of the amount of propaganda and brainwashing that's out there, well, it starts to make sense, right? Then it starts to make sense. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms if you haven't already. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. Again, I appreciate whatever support I can get. But like I say, check out those links and stay tuned for more.